This is Research Like a Pro, episode 312, Mitochondrial DNA and WikiTree. Welcome to Research Like a Pro, a genealogy podcast about taking your research to the next level, hosted by Nicole Dyer and Diana Elder, accredited genealogist professional. Diana and Nicole are the mother-daughter team at FamilyLocket.com and the authors of Research Like a Pro, a genealogist guide. With Robin Worthland, they also co-authored the companion volume, Research Like a Pro with DNA. Join Diana and Nicole as they discuss how to stay organized, make progress in their research, and solve difficult cases. Let's go! Today's episode is sponsored by newspapers.com. Hi, Mom, and hi, everyone. Welcome to Research Like a Pro.
Hi, Nicole. How are you doing?
Really well. I had the time of my life last week going to the courthouse and researching in Oklahoma. It was so fun. I can't wait to write blog posts and talk about it on the podcast.
I can't wait either. It was really fun to see some of your pictures and learn what you were doing as you were there. So neat to have that experience. That's so great.
Yeah, it really was a conscious choice that I had to make that I've been saying for years that I want experience researching in a courthouse on site. And I just really finally said, I'm going to make this happen. And the opportunity arose when my husband was going on a work trip, and I just did everything I could to make it happen. So
Well, congratulations. That's what life is all about, making it happen.
now I have over 100 images of things to process. So I have my work cut out for me.
Yeah, probably for the next few months, I would think. That's a lot.
Yep.
100. Oh, wow.
What about you? What have you been doing?
Well, I finished up my report on Clumsy Klein, and it's always so great to get the research report completely written. And I did one version of it, then got some peer review, went back and did edits, and then I printed it out. And I am always amazed when I print out my work, my report, I go through it and I just mark it up like crazy. I see things so differently when it's on paper. And so that really helped to strengthen it. And then here's a funny thing. I realized I had not even mentioned the mitochondrial DNA test I have for this case. And I had one of my cousins take the mitochondrial test specifically for solving Clumsy Klein's family. And I kind of forgot about it. I was so caught up in the autosomal DNA and all the connections I was finding. So today I went back and added mitochondrial. And I think I'm definitely going to have to do some targeted testing because I have so many matches, but they're all at a genetic distance of 1, 2, or 3. And of course, that's not going to tell me, anything except for I have a haplogroup. It's a broadly European haplogroup for her. And, I was just happy that I had that to add in. And now I'm going to really work hard to get some other mitochondrial DNA test takers for the other lines that I need to see how they connect to Clumsy.
Great. It'll be perfect to talk about that some more as far as mitochondrial DNA and tools for that in our topic today a little bit later.
Right.
Well, for announcements, if you're trying to learn Airtable and you feel stuck, please check out my Airtable research logs quick reference guides. There's one that tells you the overview of Airtable and another that tells you how to track DNA matches. They're PDF downloads available on our website. Then, if you have not signed up for our webinar series for 2024, then you may want to sign up. This month, July 20th, we have Mark Thompson presenting Who is Grace Brown's Mother? He will be talking about indirect evidence and tracing his matrilineal line back to Grace Brown. Grace was born in England and died in Massachusetts, and it should be interesting. Mark is a graduate of the Research Like a Pro with DNA study group and the author of the blog Making Family History, and he often speaks about artificial intelligence, so you may have heard him on any of those topics. Okay, well, we just opened registration for the Research Like a Pro study group as we're recording this. This fall, very end of August, we will be starting our 10th Research Like a Pro study group. Can you believe it's 10?
That is so cool. That's amazing.
It's not the 10th year because the first couple times we did 2 of them every year. But it's been a great run of study groups, and it's always just a wonderful opportunity to make progress on a research question that you maybe need some motivation to work on. Maybe it's a challenging project, or maybe you just enjoy working with others and getting feedback on your work to help you improve your skills as a professional genealogist. Or maybe you're an intermediate genealogist and you want to get better. Well, if you'd like to be a peer group leader for that, please let us know or apply on our website. We have an application for that and you'll get free registration. Coming up soon is our artificial intelligence workshop, Research Like a Pro with AI, on July 29th through August 1st. And we'd love to have you join us for that. It's going to be 4 days of a lot of fun and interesting things. And we'll be having little homework assignments each day and then a class in the morning that's recorded. And if you can't come live, you can watch the recordings afterward. Just register like everyone else and then watch the recordings whenever you get to it. They'll be available for 3 months. To get all this news in our newsletter, just sign up for our newsletter, and sometimes we send out coupon codes.
Thank you. Well, we have a listener spotlight today, and this is Terry, and the title of this review is Getting Organized. Terry says, I wanted to reach out and thank you for your informative podcast. Your teaching style is clear and a pleasure to follow. I always listen during my Monday morning walks. It's been so long now that it feels like you are my Monday walking buddies. I've inherited a large amount of unorganized genealogy documents and am planning to start organizing it properly. I listened to a couple of your 2019 podcast episodes for guidance, which were helpful. However, I have a couple of questions. So question 1, do you still use Evernote for organization? I haven't heard you mention it recently, and I'm curious about your current tools. So I can answer that. I do still use Evernote, but I use it to organize my syllabi, blog posts, basically my research into context or historical information. I don't put my genealogy in Evernote. I started doing that a little bit years ago, but then decided I was just going to use my trees and my Google Drive to organize that. But Evernote is still where I put all of that extra information that I will need for reference. So my reference material. And then number 2 question, what is your file naming protocol? And I just have something simple. When I download a file, I have the date, the type of record, the person, and the place. So 1850 census, John C. Klein, Fulton County, Arkansas. So that's what I do. It's pretty simple. I have it in my head, so I don't have to think about it. I just do it really quickly. And then her final comment, any insight you have to share would be greatly appreciated. Thank you for your time and your sharing your expertise with the community. Thank you so much, Terry. We always love getting questions and thoughts from our listeners.
Well, that was nice. And it's fun to hear questions about organization. And I feel like in Research Like a Pro, a lot of the time people are wondering how to take all of their genealogy materials and get them organized. And following a process definitely helps you to do it along the way. But if you're taking care of years of backup, then it is nice to have some system and plan where you can organize those things and then going forward do better. So that's good to hear about Evernote and how you're still using it and some advice on that.
Right. It's really helpful, especially when I am researching a topic and I remember that I heard a talk on that a long time ago, and I can just go put in the keywords and it will pull up all my information. So it's, for me, just really fast and fun to use it for my reference material.
Great. Today we are talking about mitochondrial DNA, like we mentioned, but not just mitochondrial DNA. We're talking about using mitochondrial DNA with WikiTree. So let's get started on that topic. We all inherit mitochondrial DNA from our mothers, but only females can pass it on. So males and females inherit it from their moms, but the males do not pass it on. This unique inheritance path is interesting to explore, and it can be really useful in our genealogy, especially if we understand its limitations. Unlike autosomal DNA, where we receive it from all of our close ancestors, the mitochondrial DNA we carry is very old and was passed on to us from a grandmother many generations in the past. When you take a mitochondrial DNA test, you receive a haplogroup. The ISOG Wiki defines a haplogroup as a genetic population group of people who share a common ancestor on the patriline or matriline. Top-level haplogroups are assigned letters of the alphabet, and deeper refinements consist of additional number and letter combinations. So you may have seen those haplogroup designations and thought, okay, there's a bunch of letters and numbers. What does that mean? Well, FamilyTree DNA gives this statement about mitochondrial DNA haplogroups. A haplogroup represents a shared maternal line ancestor that lived thousands of years ago. Everyone in a common haplogroup shares a common distant ancestor. So we don't know the name of that woman, but we can think of that haplogroup, the letters and numbers, as a unique name for her.
Thank you for that explanation. It's always so good to review the inheritance of these different types of DNA. Well, you might be wondering about where you can receive a haplogroup. So if you do the autosomal DNA test at 23andMe, you'll receive a high-level maternal haplogroup. And if you do the autosomal DNA test at Living DNA, you will also receive the high-level haplogroup plus a more refined haplotype. And finally, if you do the mitochondrial DNA full sequence test at FamilyTree DNA, you'll receive your haplogroup and a report showing matches. Unfortunately, because mitochondrial DNA is passed down relatively unchanged for generations, it will be very difficult to determine that common female ancestor between you and those matches. So the best use for genealogy is to target test descendants of a hypothesized female ancestor, and that can help you to rule in or rule out that proposed ancestor. So I tested at 23andMe and FamilyTree DNA with the full sequence mitochondrial test, and I had my son test at Living DNA. So at Living DNA, you also get the Y DNA haplogroup as well as mitochondrial, so I thought it would be fun to have him test there. Now, I passed on my mitochondrial DNA to all of my children, so my son has the same haplogroup as me, and here are our results so you can get an idea of what this looks like. From 23andMe, we had the higher level, which was U5B1C, and then FamilyTree DNA and Living DNA both gave me a more specific, which means it's longer. So it was U5B1C and then the added 2B. So it's always fun to look at these haplogroups and try to understand a little bit more about them and look at the company's explanation. So FamilyTree DNA gave me self-reported countries of origin for other people with this haplogroup who were exact matches with me, and they were all over Europe: England, France, Germany, Ireland, Scotland, Sweden, the UK, and the US. So you can see this was a broadly Northern European group. And then because both FamilyTree DNA and Living DNA reported a more specific haplogroup than 23andMe, I was able to get a little bit more information from Living DNA. And they said that this haplogroup is commonly found in the Sami people, Saami. I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly, but they are of northern Norway, Sweden, and Finland. So that made perfect sense, the Scandinavian connection, because my matrilineal line goes straight back to Denmark.
That does make sense. And it's nice to see the paper trail lining up with the DNA results. Well, our connection to Denmark is very close. So your great grandmother and your great grandmother's mother and her grandmother were fully Danish. And so it's great to have images of them and information about them on Family Search. There's several relatives who have uploaded photos, stories, and documents about them. So we know a little bit about each one, which is pretty neat. Well, starting with my grandmother, here is a small snippet about each of these women. So Diana's mother, my grandmother, is Anna Mae Kelsey. She was born in 1928, and she was born in Burley, Idaho, and married her high school sweetheart, Warren Pace, in 1949. And he died of cancer just 4 years later. And this is sad because they had an 18-month-old son, and I just can't imagine that circumstance. Well, she moved forward with her life and eventually married my grandpa, Bobby Gene Schultz, in 1956. She taught the values of hard work, being organized, caring about others, and much more.
All right, so now let's go to Florence Matilda Creer. This was my grandmother. She was born in 1892 in Spanish Fork, Utah, and she gave up her life of relative luxury to marry my grandfather, Edward Raymond Kelsey, in 1917. They started married life in a one-room shack homesteading in Idaho. She lost much of her hearing early in life, but she never complained and always thought of others before herself. Her mother was Mary Margaret Peterson, born 1871, and she was the first of this matrilineal line to be born in the United States. She married Charles Cannon Creer in 1892 and started married life in grand style in the two-story home he built in Spanish Fork. Sadly, she suffered an accident 15 years after marriage that rendered her an invalid for the rest of her life. Her talents in music, storytelling, and sewing brought joy to her family and neighbors. Mary's mother was Margaret Matilda Rigtrip. She was born in 1848 in Randers, Denmark, and she emigrated with her parents to Utah Territory as a 7-year-old in 1855. She worked hard to help her widowed mother. Her father had died upon arriving in the U.S., and she married another Danish immigrant, Soren Petersen, in 1867. In 1880, she lost 3 of her children to diphtheria and died herself in 1886 after the birth of her 10th child. After Margaret, we have Johanna Elizabeth Korsgaard, and she was born in 1813 in Viborg, Denmark, and married Peter Rigtrup on May 1st, 1840. They went against tradition and joined the newly formed Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints when missionaries visited their village. With her husband, she packed up her family of 4 children in 1855 and crossed the Atlantic. They settled in Iowa and St. Louis, working to earn funds for the trip west. But before they could begin this trek in 1857, her husband and son died of smallpox. Determined to make it to Utah Territory in 1859, Joanna and her surviving 3 children walked all the way. As a widow, Johanna worked hard to support her family and outlived all but one of her 6 children. Her faith and persistence are inspiring. So as I was looking through the biographies of these women, I was just so struck with how each one had pretty significant challenges, widows and health issues and losing children. And they overcame their challenges and seemed to really have a lot of opportunities to still give and serve others. So they're great role models. Well, let's have a word from our sponsor, newspapers.com. This episode is brought to you by newspapers.com. Discover your mom in the paper when you search newspapers.com. Find the stories that made her who she is today by searching the largest online newspaper archive. Newspapers.com makes it easy to find your mom, grandma, and others in the papers. Search more than 945 million pages from major news titles to small-town papers. Uncover birth and marriage announcements, obituaries, photos, and much, much more. Explore papers dating back to 1690 or as recent as last month. Newspapers.com is used by millions of people every month for genealogy, historical research, and more. Find something you like? With newspapers.com, it's a snap to save and share articles with family and friends, or attach them directly to your ancestry tree. Use promo code FamilyLocket for a 20% discount on your subscription. That's code FamilyLocket and celebrate the stories of a lifetime with newspapers.com.
Well, after taking a mitochondrial DNA test and reviewing the matches and the haplogroup at FamilyTree DNA, you might wonder, well, what else can I do with this? Maybe you took the mitochondrial DNA test to compare with the descendant of a hypothesized ancestor. Or you might have taken it just to see your haplogroup or fishing for matches. But by adding your matrilineal line to the collaborative WikiTree, you can also add your haplogroup for mitochondrial DNA, which will then populate the profile of every female ancestor who is related along that unique DNA inheritance. That haplogroup will also populate any descendants of each ancestor who could have received that mitochondrial DNA. This is powerful, and it really helps us to share the DNA information that we have with other family members. Well, what is WikiTree? WikiTree.com is a free website for building a family tree, and it's one family tree, so everyone contributes to the same tree. It does require that you have a login to be able to contribute to it. The homepage explains that this is a single family tree where users work together, carefully evaluate sources, and incorporate DNA. Any modern family history or living people are private. WikiTree has been in the genealogy world for 15 years, and it now has over 1 million members.
All right, well, you can participate in WikiTree without signing the Wiki Genealogist Honor Code, but if you're serious at using WikiTree at a higher level, you'll need to read and sign it. And the Honor Code is great. It discusses collaboration, respecting privacy and copyrights, giving credit, and citing sources. And those are all things that we want to do anyway with our genealogy. WikiTree has 6 levels of privacy for a profile that you can edit at any time. It can be unlisted, private, private with public biography, private with public family tree, private with public biography and family tree, public and open. The public and open privacy options are not available for living people, so they will always be private. WikiTree encourages collaboration and open profiles. anyone can go on WikiTree and search for an ancestor. And I thought I would try some of mine. I found the profile of my ancestor, Martin S. Schultz. He lived between 1793 and 1854. And I did not create his profile, someone else did. So I was able to look at it, and there was a little open lock in the upper right corner that lets me know this profile can be edited. If the lock is closed, you can't edit it. You'd have to contact the profile manager. But I can go ahead and add descendants and connect to my Schultz line. I can add sources, images, and stories. And then once I've connected to Martin, my name will be listed under the DNA connections on the right. So each profile over on the right has DNA connections, and any person who has added DNA to their personal profile, their ancestors will all show that DNA information. So it's really, really neat. It's completely optional to add any DNA information, but in my opinion, it's the key reason why I want to be on WikiTree.
Awesome. It's just such a great way to collaborate. WikiTree has a lot going on, but you can get started with WikiTree without knowing everything about it. There is a little video you can start with called What is WikiTree? And another great video is called Welcome to WikiTree by Leanne Cooper. Basically, you'll just start by creating your account, your login, and your profile, which you can edit at any time. Then you'll start by adding your parents and grandparents and ancestors. WikiTree does allow you to upload a GEDCOM, but you do need to verify each profile and make sure there's not a duplicate or a person already in the tree with the same information. So many people choose to build their tree from the ground up. This is very similar to the Family Search Family Tree, if you've ever used that, where you want to kind of add unique people only and not add a whole bunch of duplicates. One thing that's unique is that no profile can be added without a source. So you need to at least say, you have personal information about your parents being your own parents and that kind of thing. And then going further back, hopefully you have sources. Well, adding DNA information is a very unique, awesome thing about WikiTree, but you don't upload your raw DNA. You do add your GEDmatch kit number, your Y-DNA, and your mitochondrial DNA haplogroups, and you can note where you have tested your DNA, such as Ancestry DNA, MyHeritage, or FamilyTree DNA. And this can help other people find you on those websites.
So you can add information, or you can add that you have tested at these different testing companies. And you can also add that you have tested at Living DNA and MitoY-DNA. MitoY-DNA is where you can upload your Y-DNA test results or your mitochondrial DNA test results. So you can also note that you are there on MitoY-DNA. And you can get all of that information in there, and then it will show up on each of your ancestors. So I added all of those tests, and remember, we don't upload DNA. You just have a screen, and you will just mark that you've taken the test, and then it will appear on your profile and your ancestors. So because I'd taken the mitochondrial DNA test, I went ahead and added my haplogroup, and then it populated through all of those female lines that I had as far back as I went. And then it was fun to see that it also populated on my children's profiles. And so I need to go and add more of the descendants of those women, and then it will populate on those descendants as well. So that's really neat to have that opportunity to look through WikiTree and see who has taken a Y-DNA or a mitochondrial DNA test. It can be kind of difficult to find people who have taken those tests. So if you have taken a test, I would invite you to go to WikiTree and create an account and a profile and put that out there so that other people can collaborate and can contact you and be able to make more progress on our family tree, which is what this is all about. So WikiTree has a lot of features. You can click around on it and look at so many different things. But one of the neat features is a DNA ancestors view, and it shows which ancestor you inherited different types of DNA from. It also shows the X chromosome, which can be kind of tricky to figure out who gave you the X chromosome. So I like that it shows your Y line if you're male and your mitochondrial line for everyone, and then your autosomal DNA as well as the X. So that's kind of a neat feature, and I'm excited to keep exploring WikiTree and seeing what else I can find to do with it. So, you might wonder, why should I get involved with another family tree? But I think the DNA makes it really worthwhile.
For sure. It's really fun to see in your blog post about the mitochondrial DNA and WikiTree that now looking at your pedigree, we can see the little red MT symbol next to your mother and grandma and the different X DNA inheritance path. It's just great. I love that. And the little AU symbol for autosomal. So it's definitely a very visual, awesome reminder of the testing that you've done and how it helps us understand your ancestors better.
Right. And I think it's so neat that if you have it on GEDmatch, you can add your kit number there so that you can go through and find different DNA, hopefully cousins, that you can see if you're connected to them over on GEDmatch if you all have your kit numbers out there. So it's just really a great way to see what you can do with your DNA.
Well, thank you for sharing that about your experience with WikiTree. I hope everyone listening who's considering using WikiTree will give it a shot and try adding your DNA there.
All right. Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. We hope that something you heard today will help you make progress in your research. If you want to learn more, purchase our books, Research Like a Pro and Research Like a Pro with DNA on Amazon.com and other booksellers. You can also register for our online courses or study groups of the same names. Learn more at FamilyLocket.com/services. To share your progress and ask questions, join our private Facebook group by sending us your book receipt or joining our courses. To get updates in your email inbox each Monday, subscribe to our newsletter at FamilyLocket.com/newsletter. Please subscribe, rate, and review our podcast. We read each review and are so thankful for them. We hope you'll start now to research like a pro.